All right, it says we're
Like,
live now. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I
let me
had I
get back
had
in.
spicy shoots all weekend, so I was just like a little bit busted up after everything. Okay, there we go.
All right, perfect. People are joining us. Ossiana today. Oh, it's so great to hear. Yeah, you're kind of underneath. You're out of frame, but that's okay. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ossiana Makes Content, aka Ossiana Tepfenhart. You might know me from Ossiana's Substack. You might know me as the crazy dame who's had Tarot for America. Hey, Jean. Hi, Michelle. Nice to meet you guys.
I'll try not to have a stroke. Thank you.
I see Kent Anderson. Y'all might also know me as like the spicy content creator who somehow also became a political pundit.
Um, I apologize. I guess I pronounced your name wrong. It's Oceana. I
Hmm.
was saying it wrong. So I apologize for that. That was an honest mistake. No disrespect intended.
None taken. If you heard some of the ways that people have mispronounced it, you'd probably wonder if they had a stroke.
I guess that refers to last week because I was raging out. I
Like a lot of us are
was
raging
a
right
Southern
now.
Baptist.
Like the opinionated ogre is raging out. Literally like everyone who is as left
Yeah,
as me or more left if that's even humanly possible.
yeah. And you were saying it. I mean, it's because the Democrats just again just their only strategy they believe in is unconditional surrender. That's the only. And then they have the nerve
Like
to come at us and be like, "Well, you guys,
it's so
we know
sad.
better than you do. The best thing to do is to just give in and to not even try to fight." Oh man, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, wait, Lizzie, you're still there. I
you're
thought you
like
froze there for a second.
glitching
Huh?
out, but like for real, like I've
Oh,
never like you
I,
know how they used to say there was this old like military joke saying raise one hand if you like the French, but raise both if you are the French, like surrender. It's literally that way with
yeah,
the
yeah,
Democrats these days. It's like at this point, let's just call them the surrender monkey crowd, okay? Like I understand that flights were starting to be canceled and stuff like that, and people were actually starting to quit becoming air traffic controllers because of the shutdown. But that doesn't mean that like because of because of what they gave up, millions of people are gonna die.
yeah.
Like,
And they could, yeah, and they could. Hi, hi, Bob. I see him there. And it's just this. Then they constantly come out with their full court press justifying themselves. And there's just so much that they could be doing. We're supposed to have all these funds. They should be out there mobilizing. They should be out there feeding people. They should be doing but they just sit around doing not a goddamn thing. They should be selling their freaking properties and using that to help people because all of these Democrats are rich. Oh, it's saying I'm unstable. Am I glitching again or is it
yeah,
okay?
like what pisses me off the most about this is that one, I pay a lot of taxes. Like I'm currently dealing with IRS tax problems because I acted like a rich person. And you know what? I want to go back to that. I want to go back to literally just like be like, "Hey, yeah, no, I'm going to use like whatever this that and the other." I I want them to feel the way that the average working person does where we're sitting there we're like, "Okay, how are we going to make this happen?" Like
Yeah.
there's a certain point where people just get so pissed off with people simply because if they really truly wanted to help others, they they would at least give us healthcare. Like everyone's like, "Oh no, but how are you going to afford it? And the healthcare elsewhere is not as good as here." Well, yeah, you know what? Here's how we afford it. China can afford it, and they have better outcomes than here. Switzerland can afford it, and they have better outcomes and lower prices than here. It's yeah,
Hmm.
the exactly. And like the thing is that everybody keeps blaming 5 or 6 centrists. Well, guess what? We should not have to vote those fuckers in. Why the fuck is no one like
Yeah.
incumbing against them and being like, you know what? These centrists can drink my piss.
Yes. And this is I keep telling people the primaries are going to be critical. And if we could get like 30% of the population to participate in the primaries, the Democratic establishment would shit their pants in terror because they know they don't have and so much of their energy and so much of our donation money that they're constantly begging us for goes into preventing us from having robust primaries where people actually talk to the candidates and tell them, we don't fucking like what you're doing. We don't like it. They want to control the narratives. Friends, you gotta quit. You gotta stop supporting all these centrist people. You gotta stop supporting because it's habitual. We
Yeah.
give money to these groups that work against us without even recognizing it. Deliberately stop supporting all these centrist promoting freaking media. It's like I'm so tired of people talking about Adam Kinzinger. Like failed Republicans are not, they don't have the answer for us. Even the fucking Republicans hate that guy. So stop listening to him. He's a multimillionaire. Don't give him any money. He's not out there saying universal health care. He's just out there being like, well, and he's criticizing the Democrats too. And then the Democrats are like, oh, we got to talk to this guy. He's sitting there with his purple check mark on Substack, getting millions and millions of dollars and using it to fuck us. That's what he uses it for. So people, we're, I'm sick of it.
No, like
Sorry, I'm gonna have a stroke. Yeah.
whenever I hear people say both sides are the same, I'm like, no. You see, one actually wants to put me in a gas chamber. The other one
Yeah.
just wants me to starve to death. I prefer the starvation route because at least maybe I can like pull my way out of that. The other one, like, they want me dead. Like, there's definitely a difference, but the problem is that at least on paper, because establishment Democrats are fucking disgusting at this point. Like, I
Mm.
used to be vote blue no matter who, but we're no longer at the point where vote blue no matter who
Yeah.
works. It
And
would
the
have worked if
Democrats aren't.
Kamala won. It would have worked if Kamala
Yeah.
won. But you know what? The election was stolen. There's ample
Yeah.
proof to this. At this point, we have to pick our fighters and we have to be sending our best to the best. And we ain't doing that because we got a bunch of fucking stupid ass geriatric millionaires with thumbs up their asses. Like, just sitting there going, oh, but what about the shareholders? How about these guys realize like how this turned out, like the last couple of revolutions, right? Like, it does not end up well. And there's going to be a lot more anger towards the Democrats than the Republicans because with the Republicans, their constituents, they at least got to see some
Yeah.
of their shit pull through, even if it's absolutely horrible. Democrats are going to be way angrier and are not going to fucking protect their own because we've been betrayed so often.
Yeah. And I keep telling people, it's like we gave the Democrats everything they asked for in 2020. They had the control in the House, they had control of the Senate, they had the presidency. All they had to do was hold the insurrectionists accountable. And they just didn't.
Yeah,
They just didn't and there's stuff that they pushed through but then they're like, you got all these people justifying guys like Joe Manchin. If they'd have voted for the Build Back Better Act in its entirety, you
they
know, it,
this wouldn't
we
have
would have
happened.
everything would have been so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just don't do this. So what's the point? What's the point? Why are we electing these people that claim to be Democrats who then sabotage us? Why do we tolerate that? And I get so many people who sit there and they tell me I need to, and they're right. Thank you for worrying about my health, wonderful people in the chat. They're telling me not to have a stroke. And it's like, okay, I will do my best. I did get checked out not too long ago. And the doctor said pretty much, he's like, all right. But but yeah, we have to stop making apologies for the Democrats. We have to just be unapologetic. The time we need because people are dying.
Yeah.
People are starving to death. People are not getting their health care. They're getting their I just got our insurance
People are getting
premium hike
dragged
in
out
the
of their
mail. I mean,
homes.
we're screwed.
People are getting dragged out of their homes. It happened right near where I live. It happened in Red Bank. Like literally down the street from me. Like
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
people don't understand we're going up against pure evil. And if there's one thing I've learned about humanity cuz like for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Ossiana. I'm a sex trafficking survivor from one of the worst rings in the country. Me and just like a handful of people my age survived it. Um, Most were much younger when they passed away. Um, I've seen pure evil. I've seen the type of evil that they make horror movies out of. I've seen the type of evil where they've had creepypastas out of. And I can tell you one thing. I kind of liked that type of evil because when you understood who they are, you understood that they will fucking fuck you up. The worst type of evil, the worst type of evil that stung 10 times harder were the people who did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the type of evil that we're dealing with within the Democrat Party. They
Yep. And
know what's going on. They're doing nothing because it's easier for them to do nothing. Or because, as I said in one of my more recent articles, I think that they're part of the pedocon, the pedocracy.
Mhm.
I think that I genuinely do believe that a lot of the Democrats, which keep randomly crumbling at like the worst possible times, I think that they have some skeletons in their closet. And I can tell you one thing. My ex-girlfriend actually had sex with a presidential candidate from way back in the day when she was a teenage boy.
Mm, mm, mm.
I know what shit goes on there. I ain't gonna name names, but I know that there are some skeletons in those closets,
Yeah.
and they're saying
Th-
nothing.
It goes back to, and it makes me think of Martin Luther King, his letter from Birmingham jail, when he says, "The greatest threat is the moderate. It's not the clanners. It's not all those people that are openly evil. It's these moderates who cover for them."
Yeah,
And they just act, and then they pressure the other people. I mean, you can always see because they'll say vote blue no matter who, but then they don't vote for Mamdani, right? And it's sort of like, and it started to really make me, and we should be angry about this. They got
yeah.
behind Cuomo. Has faced as credible accusations of sexual misconduct, and they shoved, and so that lends in right to what you're saying. Openly, the Democratic establishment has supported these men who are guilty of sexual misconduct over decent people who will fight for universal health care and will fight against starvation. We have to, yeah, it's just like we have to stop pretending that's not the case.
So I'm gonna be a little bit I'm gonna be a little bit like out there with what I'm gonna say. Can I get some hearts if I have any people from New York City over here?
That's
I'm seeing some hearts. I'm seeing some hearts. Yes, New York represents. So if New York, if you're from New York, then you know exactly what I'm going to start talking about, right? So throughout Manhattan, there are a lot of bordellos. I used to actually squat in a whorehouse for a while, and let me tell you something. These places are spas. These places are gentlemen's clubs, video clubs. I've seen one where, they pay money to watch a porn video with a girl. Whatever goes on goes on. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is that e- even in these blue states, and perhaps especially in these blue states, it's a little bit more open because there are a lot more safeguards for the working girls. Um, but if you think that those politicians aren't going through those places, you're fucking wrong. Like, anytime that you see a person in a position of power, and I speak as somebody who I don't hate on sex workers, quite obviously I am one. I also have, you know, sugared people before. Um, I mean, some of them are gentlemen, I'll be honest with you. Some of the nicest guys I've ever met, I met while I was an escort. Like, they literally would buy me, like, a bottle of wine. They wouldn't even have sex with me sometimes. We would just, like, sit there and would be talking about books, and I would learn so much from these dudes. So, props, not all Johns are the same, but what's going on here with the politicians and the people in power, they hire these girls because they want secrecy, but the thing is that a lot of the things that they want secret should not be secret. And I'm saying this as somebody who has seen it. I'm saying this as somebody who has lost people to it. These are these are people who, like, even like left-leaning people are known for this, but the truth is that it's mostly right-wing people who are the real butchers, so to speak. They're the ones who tend to be the worst towards the girls. But there are some. Well, I will say this much. I have never actually heard of a politician killing a girl, but I have heard of one beating her so bloody that she dislocated a jaw. Um, I'm not gonna say whether it's right or left because I'm actually not sure the political party, but one of my former friends, he was a DJ at one of those clubs when that happened. And that guy is actually banned from most bordellos in New York. So,
Just
there's that.
what you're talking about, and it gets back to the Epstein case. I mean, um, Ellie Leonard's been doing a lot of work just going through that stuff that actually is already out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been released, and it's like we don't have any journalists hardly excuse me, anymore. I mean, but you can go through the stuff that's already been released and connect the dots and see things and compare things and get names that way. But just like the mechanism in place to protect these groups, all the stuff that's going on in plain sight. And I mean, it feels like we're getting pretty close to what should be a tipping point. Like,
We are.
because it's, you look at Virginia Gouffre's book with, and it's just, I mean, it's not stuff, but as I was reading that book, and it's so horrible. I mean, we're talking about these abuses of children, and as a parent, I don't want to read this, but I'm like, well, I feel forced to read it. But then in reading it, I'm like, I didn't have to experience things that bad, but I recognize these actions of authority, these patriarchal men, the way that our vice president shuffles into a room, just the way they move, it makes me creeped out. Like you see it, all that stuff over and over again, and just the extent to which it's in plain sight in our society. So thank you for telling us about for bravely sharing your experience about the things that go on. But I mean, we all
So,
know it's out there.
like, I'll tell you what happened to some of my friends because 'cause we're on this topic, and I honestly think that the Epstein files, like, I've mentioned this in my writing, but it hits me a lot different, um, for very obvious reasons. Because I was not trafficked in New York. I was trafficked in DC. And, what happened with some of my friends, there was a club where they would tell us that the grand prize was us being auctioned off. And, sometimes they'd not come back. And I actually went to the FBI. I was in FBI headquarters telling people what happened to me. I would tell people the layout of the house that they had us in. I'd tell them about how they made us sleep on dog beds and all this other shit. And this happened in DC. And the thing is that for some people, like, they'd come back. For some people, they'd get some money, and, that was on them. If they wanted to do that, if they wanted to do it to get money and keep the money, I'm not gonna be one to judge per se, because you have to do what you have to do to survive. But the ones who didn't come back were often a lot younger. And, I've always had my suspicions that the person who did that to me probably did something very similar to Epstein with people who are similar clients.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're fighting so hard not to release those names, it's a slap on the face to everybody who I've lost as well as myself. And I've seen and people tell me that I'm an asshole for siding with her on this, but I've seen the reactions of two particular GOP women, one of which is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I can tell you something happened to her. The way that she's fighting for that, that is a woman who actually gives a shit. There was another one, who's still, like, bent over backwards for her patriarchy crap. Um, I forget which one it was. I don't wanna say it was Kristi Noem. It was I think it was a brunette, but Marjorie actually might be the one who starts the real tipping point in the GOP. And they are most dangerous because they know nothing's gonna happen to them. But I think that they're starting to realize something's gonna happen to them because we have reached a tipping point. The shit's not going away. They have not been able to scuttle it. There are people like me who are gonna sit there and continually remind people that this shit exists, and you know what? We can all talk. And if some of those working girls I know who have seen what happened to me, who have heard the nightmare stories of what happened to me and my friends, if they start talking and they start releasing their clients' names because they were not the ones being trafficked, but they were close enough to keep a culture of silence, then shit is going to really hit the fan. And I think that they're starting to realize that because people are getting sick of it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your courage there, Oceana. It's so important to talk about these things, and it's so yeah, and it's so hard, and it's hard to bring those things up, and to people that don't wanna step forth, totally understand that too, so no pressure, but they all need to know there are people that will then support them if they do, because all this power is an illusion, all this power, and they've got that whole attitude of they're, untouchable, but they are untouchable. And if we start speaking out, we share our truth. The only thing that defeats us is being silent. The more of us come together and we speak out, I've said since the beginning, there's no protection in staying silent. Silent. There's no protection in complying with this regime. They're coming after all of us. It's clear.
Yeah,
They're doing it. Obviously, they're going door to door and grabbing people, and those people are disappearing in plain sight. They're denying it. They're taking away our healthcare. They're taking away our food. And, they're all trying to cover up these horrible abuses that people have had to suffer, and good people can't stand for it.
exactly. And one of the things I keep hearing from other people who have lived through dictatorships, they all say the same thing. You might as well fight because they're going to kill you anyway.
Mm,
Are you gonna be the one who, passes away after having given away your mother, your sister, your brother, your neighbor? Are you gonna be the one who sits there and starts groveling and just, you know, are you gonna be is that how you wanna go out? Or do you wanna be the one who people remember, like Sophie from World War II, the 21-year-old who literally died after passing out flyers saying, "End this madness."
mhm.
Who do you wanna be? Now is the time that you actually make that decision. Who the hell do you wanna be? Everybody always says that if they were in World War II, they would have beat Nazi
Yeah,
ass, or if they were in World War II, they would have signed up Team America. Exactly. You have to be your own hero, but you also have to be your neighbor's hero. You have to be your brother's hero. You have to be your sister's hero. And everybody always gets a little bit, like, weirded out when they see, like, how vocal I am about the way that minorities are treated, considering that I literally look like the freaking poster child of the Aryan Brotherhood half the time. But the truth is that if they're not safe, we're not safe. This is one of
yeah,
those things where literally right now, if anybody's been asking what you're doing, what you would have done in World War II, you're doing it right now. We know who would have sided with the Nazis. We know who would have bought their propaganda hook, line, and sinker.
yeah. Again, thank you, and the other thing it's like fighting just means speaking. Fighting just means speaking, just say the truth, and we all know what truth is. We all know what justice is. We were born knowing. Like, the first time when I was 5 and somebody started messing with me, I knew it was wrong. We all knew it was wrong, and we live in this system where they put blinders on us, and they tell us everything is great and all things are wonderful and that we're not allowed to speak out, even as they also tell us that this is the land of the free. We're allowed to speak. And I've just been little things, just making people carry your copy of Nobody's Girl around. And it's like, have people see you reading this. And then if they ask, have a conversation. And, people ask me because I'll go to the basketball, help coach. And people, well, you come every day. I'm like, yeah, and, in this racist society, I'm not going to leave my immigrant children unattended. That's the reality. Because so many people, they're still and you just see that because so many people have these sheltered lives where they can get up in the morning, they can do their routine, and for them, because they have the privilege of making enough money, it seems like everything's fine. But just know that the houses you're passing by on the way to work, there might be a child in there getting abused. And we have to, we cover this up. We know the churches have been covering this up. We know
Oh,
the
yeah.
churches have been covering it up. And people still go to church. It's like, what the fuck? Every time I walk by a church with my kids, I'm like, well, it's an indoctrination center. And there's the private church, and they take money from the public school system just to hurt impoverished people. We know these things. And we're
Yeah.
always told, like, you're not supposed to talk about this. We have to just talk about it. And the more people know, it'll get fixed. Yeah, churches. Shane writes. Good to see Shane.
Honestly, like, if Christian churches would behave the way that, say, the churches from, the Sikh community or the Indian community, like if they behave that way, I would be like, "Yo, dude, I'm going to church." You know why?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you go to a Sikh church, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, they will feed you. They actually have to have a soup kitchen. It is religiously mandated. And Sikhs actually also have mandated self-defense lessons. They have mandated body positivity. They have mandated whatchamacallit, soup kitchens. They have mandated alms to the poor. You don't see any of that stuff in Christian communities. And I ought to know because the Christian communities, they're like every single time I'd like reach out to one of them for help. You know what they'd be like, hey, that's 1099.
yeah, yeah,
Bruh,
yeah.
who are you
Sean made a
asking
good
for money?
Yeah. Sean made a good comment. He says Republicans accuse of indoctrinating people while doing the same thing. And it is so true. That mechanism of oppression, that mechanism of abuse. And it's like, yeah, once you walk through like the book where you see, like in Giuffre's book, where she talks about how when she was abused as a child, and then they, how grooming happens. We don't teach our kids in schools how to avoid grooming because that would piss off the Christian nationalists because that's their whole platform is just child grooming. And it's just religion has been especially perverted in the United States. When people say we get the Christian nationalists who say this has always been a Christian nation, what they really mean to say is this has always been a white supremacy nation.
Yeah,
That's their dog whistle. That's their word swap that they use. And they try to normalize it. And just I keep talking with Will Fullwood about it. I mean, look at what this nation did. We elected a sexual predator. We elected a criminal. That's who has more power than anybody. And it's like, and then people turn around and act like you're blowing it out of proportion. It's like you have to wake up to how corrupt this country is and these levels upon levels of corruption. Look at the ones that are out in the open and just extrapolate from that of what must be going on in secret. Imagine what these assholes, these sick bastards are afraid of that they actually hide based on the things that they're doing openly.
I know a little bit too well,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like this reminds me of like one of the things I read online, and I think that most people know just from like looking at my makeup and my clothing style that I'm basically like a walking rainbow that vomited on me. You know what I mean? Like I'm extremely colorful. Like I use that to quote unquote ward off predators because it actually does work. Like
Huh.
um but one of the things that I kept noticing when like for one thing, I want to point out I was not actually trafficked by the Christian church. I was actually I met my traffickers at an anime convention, believe it or not. And one minute I drank something, the next minute I was chained to a bed. So,
Oh, wow.
like I want to point out that a lot of the stuff that they really do orient towards kids and they really do orient towards a lot of counterculture people, fringe people. But what I kept finding time and time again is that it's the people in the business suits that you should really watch out for. One of my friends actually I remember reading about this on Reddit. I told my friend and she actually taught her kid the same thing. She told her kid that if she ever gets lost in a store or if she's ever in trouble to look for a punk rocker or a goth and ask them for help. And I was like, that's actually pretty brilliant because the goth and the punk rocker, they already are under so much fucking scrutiny from like mainstream society. I can't name how many times I've had people be like, she needs an exorcism or some shit like that. I was like, like not for nothing, but all we do is dress in like neon stuff and somehow that's bad.
I'm interested
But
in that. You're saying the
yeah,
color just drives them away. They're afraid of you if you wear color?
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's funny because I've seen people actually cross the street when I'm in like my full regalia. And I'm not even talking about me being flagged up or anything like that. I'm just talking like me and my like long sweeping matrix style trench coat and a hat. Like
Okay.
I realize I look like a witch in a Japanese horror film from 1988. I mean this as a compliment. I
And then
cast
you
a
said
spell on you.
And then you said though they're targeting kids. I mean, what kind of age range are you're talking about there when you say kids?
So, When I ended up getting trafficked, I was 18, freshly turned. Um, my friend who, like, was there with me, she was 14. Um, my friend who, didn't make it, 16. Um, I've heard I've heard, um I've heard as young as, 9 years old.
Yeah.
Um, now that I'm a mom, like, like, I have an open adoption with my kid, and I pretty much just, like, warned her dads. I was like, "Listen, if, uh, if you bring her to an anime convention before she's 16 and you let her go on her own, I'm gonna beat your ass." And, I mean that. Like, I'm a mama bear. But, like, after having that happen, because at the time, like, nobody actually spoke about this. Nowadays, there's actually talk about this in the anime community. I've actually heard people, like, almost half my age, like 18, 19, talking, and they're like, "Yeah, I heard some people disappeared from this anime convention." I was like, "Yeah, I was one of the people, they disappeared." And it's interesting to just see that shift, because it used to be that, like, all these teenagers, myself included, like, would go to room party after room party, and thank you, Jean, thank you. Would go to room party after room party, and, like, they'd be like, "Hey, how old are you? You know what? Age doesn't matter. Here, have some drinks. Here, have you ever tried these pills?" And, my first actual drug experience was at a anime convention. I drank half a vial of acid. I remember getting tied to a bed and, not much else. Um, I just remembered, like, waking up with all these phone numbers, and I was like, "Who are these people?" And I started talking to them, and they made me think I was their best friend. And yeah. Shane, yeah, like, yeah, it's that's what happened, and it was in the Baltimore area. That's how everything happened. Like, there are certain parts of the DMV that if I go to, I have full-blown, like, visceral panic attacks. I can't go there sober. These days, I don't even think I'd be able to go there heavily tranquilized. Like, yes, it is like a weird crossroads between incel culture and, anime, and what's weird is that even when I was there, here's the part where it links back to politicians. Even when I was there was a very, very weird undercurrent of white nationalism.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
girls who were treated the best were blonde, and at the time I had red hair or black hair, I forget. And, like, the blonde girls, like, they had this term of, like, looking for girls whose hair was about to turn. And I think that that's, like, when girls are starting to, like, get more to an adult age, it goes from blonde to brown. That level of blonde was, like, considered to be the highest.
Oh,
There were a couple of women of color, um, but they were kept out of the typical public eye of clients because 'cause they're considered to be discount. And it's funny because that shit was going on 20 years ago, and it's still going on now. Anime does sexualize those girls, and it's weird because, like, I am a weeb. I totally love anime. I have a massive fandom of Beastars, but I also feel so nervous going to these conventions because 'cause I've seen anime get used for white nationalism. I've seen anime propagate pedophilia. I've seen I'm a firsthand fucking example of how badly anime culture can mess a person's brain up, especially when you're still developing or when you're pumped with enough drugs to kill a yak, you know? So when I saw this, it makes it very hard for me to enjoy the fandom, which is why you don't ever really see me at these events anymore. And yes, Beastars is fucking amazing. I am a furry. I'll admit it. But, like, it's interesting because if you take a look at it, where did the majority of these right-wing young guys come from? 4chan. What was
Yeah.
4chan all about? Anime.
Okay. Yeah, and like it ties into a lot of things because I keep telling people we have to do something about this white supremacy messaging that's just all over the place. I mean, and you talk about the gamers and some of the just the chats that happen, and we every now and then that gets leaked, and it's just those ways of indoctrinating young kids and making them hateful. But also, what we have to look out for is because there's a type of man that flies under the radar, are Mike Johnson types, these pathetic little dweebs who get a
Worms.
tiny little bit of power, but they know how to just be like not seen. They're like these shadows and they lurk in these rooms and they're not strong enough to handle an adult woman, but they can handle a child. And that's what we're fucking dealing with. And so many of these guys, then they start coming out from underneath their rocks, and they just like, and that's why we see this entire culture that just wants to take power from women and control women, and it's just like so many things stack on top of each other where they're just sick fantasies, their inability to handle like other adult people. I don't know. It's just and it's this trauma, like you were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because there's this trauma bond that creates that too, I think, where she got
Mhm.
stuck into that cult because of that trauma bond. Everybody's connected to our awful president because of a trauma bond. And it's like the United States wants to act like, oh, we can pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. This is a nation that's psychologically broken. Everybody's just, they're in such pain. And we just keep adding to this pain. It'd be nice if we'll talk about it a little bit. Shane's inviting you on to our talk on Friday.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. So, while we're on that topic, can we please talk about the weird fucking culture of victimhood that we have in the Democratic Party?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I swear, dude, like, I look at some of these male Democrats, especially the moderates, and I'm like, dude, do you need to borrow my tampons? How many menstrual products do we need? You little bitches.
Huh.
Like, there's this weird
Yeah.
issue among Democrats, and I notice it and I fucking hate it because this is not how it should be, where they put victimhood at a premium because everybody will, you know, they'll all circle around and be like, "Oh, well, he's the victim here." Well, what is the victim doing aside from whining about it?
Hmm.
Is he holding anyone accountable?
Hmm.
Damn right they couldn't handle the cramps. But like there is this culture of victimhood, and that's so far that's allowed them so much leeway to just squirm around on the floor. And if they are actually cornered, they do one of two things. They either leave the way that Schumer did when he was
Yeah.
asked whether or not he's voting for Mom Donmy, or they'll change it and they'll be like, well, the Republicans were mean to me and I
Yeah.
trusted them. Well, of course they're fucking mean to you. They fucking hate you. They want you dead.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna bring up that thing about Schumer. I compared him to being the Mike Johnson of the left. And he's just more pathetic about it though, because at least,
Yeah.
like Mike Johnson, at least he comes out and he starts with his authoritarian bullshit, where Schumer just has to retreat and like whimper about it. And at neither of those cases does anybody acknowledge, yeah, we're not standing up for anybody. But then you get their bot army because the left has a bot, like the establishment Democrats have a bot army, just like
Yeah.
MAGA does, where they come on, I'll publish something and I'll get all these weird comments, no profile pic, weird name, 10 followers, and they're just attack. But then they try to attack you like with some philosophical discussion rather than just insulting you and death threats. And these are like the corporate Democrat bots that I think if you're donating to that party, you're supporting. So it's just that division is all is out there.
Yeah. John Fetterman, Sean Flanagan pointed out, Fetterman is an a picture perfect example of
Oh,
that
yeah.
Democrat victimhood. Um, and Mike Johnson, dude, Mike Johnson so far in the closet, he's sniffing on Narnia. I mean, I'm just waiting for his Jesus allegory lion to mount him. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
There that guy and like there was some story about how there's a couple weird, but like he doesn't have a bank account. Apparently, they just, he just draws his salary. They send silver pieces by Raven. They just fly into his castle and drop the silver in his room. They cough up the silver. But then there's like this other thing about him where he like has this informal, like when he was 25, he informally adopted some little black boy. Did you ever hear this? Where it was just sort of like, and then this black guy's grown up now and he just doesn't want to talk about it. And I'm just like, there's seriously nobody's investigating this. And there's a couple of cases like that. Like Matt Gaetz, he also had informally
Yeah.
adopted some kid. So this stuff is out in the open. I mean, that is unacceptable. Who's making sure these kids are being taken care of? We should not assume that just because some guy is a politician, he's not out abusing these kids that he's informally adopted. They have no advocate for them. It's bizarre.
So So did you hear about there was actually a documentary about a top spiritual Republican dude and his wife who they started to groom a pool boy who was like he was like 18. And by the way, like I'm just going to point out, yes, I was 18. I was legally an adult. Um Neurodivergent or not, like I believe that, you know, as a legal adult, I do bear like some guilt in that, but at the same point, you can still be groomed at any age.
Yeah, it's not you don't have to
Like,
bear any guilt. People aren't
no,
they have
but
no
like,
right
I
to
want to point out that this, yeah, Falwell and the pool boy, and the Falwells, like, they straight up were like grooming this dude, and you know, the pool boy was banging the wife to please Falwell,
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Mhm.
and yeah, like, as soon as it came out in the open, they dropped the pool boy like a hot potato, and the pool boy was, like, upset because he was like, I think it was, like, the son and the wife, but, like, the pool boy was, like, actually, like, legitimately heartbroken
Yeah.
because he was like,
Yeah.
"I thought that I meant something." You don't mean anything to these fucking predators. Like,
Yeah.
if
Mhm.
you want to actually mean something to someone, let it be on a level where you actually feel treasured, where if they fucking, you know, reach out to you or if you reach out to them, you know that they're actually gonna be in your corner.
Yeah.
If they're ashamed of you or they're treating you like a fucking adoptable, you're not actually anything to them.
Yeah.
But who's
Yeah.
gonna clean your pool?
Well, that all starts with, I mean, again, you tell little kids that they're sinners and that they have to repent and that they're worthless. I mean, the whole Christian model creates trauma bonds. You have a trauma bond with God. And then so people they grow up from a very early age thinking that's a normal relationship. And it's just we have to model positive, healthy relationships, and those are just openly mocked in the United
Yeah.
States. I mean, think of like Tim Walz and his beautiful son and how emotional they were. And it's like the right, you go into the right, and they're just having a field day attacking those people. You think about Kamala and her husband; they just have and Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. They clearly have a
Armand Donnie and his
emotional.
wife.
Yeah,
Who, by
anytime
the
you
way,
see that,
lucky girl.
well, but then thanks for adding a little laugh in there. But it's just like anytime you see a good, healthy relationship, the right just comes in force to attack that to the point where
Mhm.
just look at all the things. And I know that, and I'm just on fringe politics, but everything, or I'm fringe in the media, but everything I do is pushed to the side. I've constantly felt that pressure. If you just try to talk about a healthy, happy relationship that's built on mutual respect and not like this whole grooming culture that we live in, you're silenced. And it really is a whole it's a rape culture, toxic masculinity, toxic authority. There's not one healthy thing in the whole United States. Otherwise, we would reject a criminal rapist when he runs for office. And this isn't a country that does that.
So I actually have a very weird tie-in here when it comes to the healthy relationships because I've noticed this. As I said, ex sex trafficking victim, current adult content creator, former modeling booker, former modeling coach. I've worked on both fashion and porn, and honestly, it's basically one whole large industry. It's very interesting to see the aesthetics that Republicans put their women through versus Democrats
Oh,
put their women through. And believe it or not, there what is going on with the quote unquote MAGA babe look is far, far, far more damning and far more nuanced than a lot of people recognize. With leftists lately, like, and even beforehand, there was always this belief in trying to show some kind of diversity. For example, believe it or not, Victoria's Secret was a major feminist icon back in the day because they showed women who were sexual. That was a groundbreaking moment in fashion where women were hypersexualized. They're like, look at how hot I am. Look, I'm not afraid to show my boobies a little bit. That's where like the door towards sex positivity got kicked down in the Y2K era. And people forget how it used to be before that. But with the later, you know, the later incarnations of beauty in the fashion industry and in the more traditional left-leaning industry, we started to see racial diversity, we started to see body diversity. You can now walk past a Victoria's Secret store and you'll see women my size. That would never have happened about 10 years ago. But that's because that's about inclusivity while still remaining edgy. With MAGA, every single woman, like, I think that people have started to notice that every single woman in MAGA seems to have the exact same hair color, one of like three options, the exact same like weird like curly swoopy hair thing that my hair can't do because it's too nappy to do so. Yeah, like dead ass. My hair is like super curly naturally, but um, then they all have the same lips, the same, yeah, the Mar-a-Lago face where they have that weird, like, fake tan that doesn't actually look natural, like, when I go to a tanning booth. They have the weird fillers that make them look like that one, horror movie dude who's like, "I want to play a game!" The Laura Loomer special, I think it's called.
Oh god, yeah.
Um, but they all look the same, down to the very,
Yeah.
like, procedures that they get. You can tell that some of them went to the exact same, like, stylist. And it's interesting because you don't see that in the Miss America, the Miss Universe pageants, do you? Now, why is that? People often think that beauty pageants are a mark of the patriarchy. They're not. You know why? Because that is a celebration of feminine power. It's showing, hey, I can make world peace happen. I can be a fucking sweetheart. I can be camera ready. I can be gorgeous. And fuck the haters who think that this is wrong. Mar-a-Largo is not about that. Mar-a-Largo is about bending and twisting women into literal puppets. That's why they all look the same. That's why they all look like Barbies. They're adhering to a standard. They're adhering to being chattel. While Miss Universe has women from all over the world showing their own beautiful standard of beauty. Trophy wife, correct. It's about domination. You're right, Deidre. And that's why, like, the women in Mar-a-Lago also look exaggerated. It's literally a warping of the feminine ideal. And that's what's going on behind closed doors as well.
I wonder what your thoughts are on. I mean, it just seems like, do you think this sexual domination is the ultimate, is the reason why? Because if we had a society where people could make a living by themselves, that they had access to food, like, then they wouldn't need to turn to, like, these evil rich benefactors just to survive. And it just seems like so much of, like, the whole right wing ideology is to just make us suffer, and just then to put us in that point of vulnerability. And just the more other people knew that if we just have social programs, the only way to stop people from being exploited sexually, one of the main ways, is to just give power to the powerless, so that people don't have to rely on some male authority figure because everything else has been prohibited. But it's like, to what extent are these things just all connected in your mind? Is that like the whole point of this? All their cruelty is just for this sexual perversion?
So I would not say that all of it is because like I've been on both sides of the sex working thing and I'll be honest with you. I'd say about 70% of the people who start out in sex work, they end up feeling exploited because They either are with the wrong people, they're doing it for the wrong reasons, they're out of desperation. And honestly, I don't think that most people should pursue that track. But for people like me or people like my friends, we use this as a way to heal. We're saying that we're claiming back our power. We're sitting here, we're taking what was once horrible and we're going, okay, this is how I want to do it. This is how I want to be treated. This is how I want to profit. And that's one of the reasons that I don't like to put sexual exploitation under all one umbrella. But what I did notice with the right wing is that it's not just sexual exploitation. It's treating humans like livestock. It's labor exploitation. If you literally have to choose between eating, having a roof over your head, and sucking off a senator, guess what? You're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like, come on, baby, drop trow. But if you're also stuck as a man between having shelter, having healthcare, having a roof over your head, and working 18 hours, you're going to sit there and you're going to start slamming like energy drink left and right. You're going to start hitting the Coke harder than you ever thought was possible just so that you can make your bills happen. I know because I've been that guy too. And the thing is that they know what they're doing. They know they're making this machine. And you are right, Deidre. They are fundamentally broken because there is no way a healthy human being wants to see this happening to families across the fucking country.
Mm.
One of the reasons why I'm so like pro Chinese and Japanese culture is because they are collectivists there. They do believe that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. While they do have very long work hours and such, they all do it for a common goal. China's now like blossoming. They've got better healthcare. They're having a rapidly rising standard of living. They're having cleaner farming, everything. Meanwhile, everything that they're gaining, we're losing over this fucking lack of unity where we're all just trying to step on each other's throats just to get more and
Yeah.
more and more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that scarcity creates division too. Like if yeah, Spock. But scarcity creates division, and they are so good. They're so good at dividing us. And honestly, those damn centrist Democrats are good at dividing us too. Because every time we say, we want, Big Tent, vote blue no matter who, but then why not Mondani? Then they attack us again. But I want to add one part real quick because we need to cultivate our respect for those who are sex workers, and too often they're cast away, but it's like but like you're kind of seeing because they know. And so in Jouffre's book too, the second you come out and you make an accusation against a powerful man, they dismiss you as hysterical, they dismiss you as all these things, they undermine your credibility, all these different ways. So we can just see that, and if we can just have, the United States is so prudish about how we talk about things, and it's like, if a person does choose to do that, that's fine. If that's what they want to do, if they want to be a sex worker, that's their right. And that's, it can be done and it can be totally healthy. And as you say, it can be a matter of reclaiming your power. But this universal attitude where those people, people who work in this, who are sex workers get marginalized, that's just cruelty. That's cruelty by us. And it's another way to cover up the crimes of these true oppressors that are out there.
And and Mike Johnson, I don't think that I don't think that he's fully aware of why he does what he does cuz a lot of these people
Yeah.
like here's what really like strikes me about the evil ruling class that we're dealing with. A lot of them don't even know why they want to hurt people.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of them have any idea. I think that some of them do it because it makes them feel powerful, but they can't even fully understand why they're victimizing the people that we are. And once they realize why, I think that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of lights open up. Is Mike Johnson a real boy? Open question. I don't know. I've never seen an innie before for a guy, so I don't know. You're gonna have to ask one of his lovers.
I was I wrote an article recently about this, and I think it comes back again. I we have so many things we're indoctrinated to believe that we don't even question, right? And so somebody I just wrote, "We have to give power to the powerless," and somebody writes, "Well, nobody gives up their power." And I actually that's something that people think. Like, if you want power, you have to take it. I don't think it's true. I think there are good people. See, this is everybody's indoctrinated to think we're all sinners, we're all evil. The United States, we have to divide power because only evil people get power. And I think that's our fundamental deceit because I think there are good people in the world. It's just that they're so marginalized and put off to the side, we don't even realize that they exist or that we can follow that model. We can choose to be like that. And so that's that justification. These evil people start to think, well, if I don't do it, somebody else will. Because they've, in their own mind, they convince themselves that good people just don't exist. And so we're at this fundamental fulcrum in history where we have to push aside all those lies because and we have to create a society that that elevates actually the good people that doesn't just divide power so that no one evil person can get so powerful to dominate us, but that we actually make an effort to elect actually good people. We elect good parents and good people that care about each other and that model healthy relationships. And I think that's really an issue that what you were saying, these people, they keep doing evil and they don't without any awareness of it because it's never occurred to them that it's even possible to be a completely different way because we don't ever talk about it.
Exactly. And one of the interesting things, I know I'm very woo-woo. I actually have a other thing called House of Bast, HAVS of Bast. Um, there's been a lot of predictions, both astrologically, tarot, remote viewing, a lot of psychics, and I'm one of them. I'll be honest with you. Like, we see that America's going to have a turning point. Everything is about to break down, and we're going to actually have to be forced to act as a community if we're ever going to actually survive. And it's going to impact everyone because, like, as somebody who's seen both the upper and the lower echelons, I've noticed that problems trickle upward. Wealth does not trickle downward. That trickle down wealth thing is bullshit. But you know what does trickle up? Problems. Things that were unheard of in the suburbs in the 80s and 90s, such as usage of heroin, usage of crack, girls like me hitting the streets. Like, that was unheard of in the 80s and 90s. Well, guess what? I live in a very, very fancy neighborhood. And a lot of my former school colleagues, they were addicted to dope. One of the richest neighborhoods in New Jersey, which is literally like next town over from me. We're talking 20, $30 million houses and country clubs that cost 100,000 a year to join. They have such a bad heroin problem in their public school that they actually had to have naloxone on lock at their parties.
Yeah.
Problems trickle up, and eventually, even the wealthiest of the wealthy are going to be impacted by the decisions that they made to victimize the lower class. When they start getting to that point, that's when we're going to start seeing some real change.
Yeah. And I think too, it's one of those things where we're told all these things in the United States, and I look back at my life, there's a lot of things that I've just done have been contrary to that. And it's like there have been opportunities where I could have fucked people over and had a lot more money, and I chose not to do that. You know, even though we're held up to this standard of wealth, 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 and then we feel like we're failures for not having $30 million in our bank account. But I look back and the reality is I didn't want those things. And part of me didn't allow me to do that, even though part of my mind, and this is kind of because we're all so confused because we have all these conflicting, contradictory messages in the United States, even those of us who are making some progress on the path to being better people. And it's like a big part of it with me was just having my kids, and it's just recognizing there's no evil in this face. You know, you hold up a baby and you look at it, and I'm just like, that's all bullshit. You know, it's like the only hate that this child knows is hate I teach her. And so I'm not going to do that. And but even so, I was getting all this pressure, like, oh, if you're not rough, they're gonna do this, you know. If you're not an authoritarian, you know, spare the rod and spoil the child, all that bullshit, you know. And it's not easy, everybody. It's not easy to get through all this programming. And I'm like at a 10% phase, you know, and it's like the rest in 50 years from now, they'll look back on my life and be horrified. But here I am trying to like make progress in the darkness. I mean, it's like we only know what goodness is because of the space where it should be, and it's been removed, right? So we're
Mhm.
trying to do our best. But yeah, I think, like you said, the rich people, it corrupts them and makes them like that all that those ideals corrupt you, they destroy you in the end, and we see endless accounts of that. People with money who then just they collapse, their body gives out on them because nobody loves them. They're hated. They're
Yeah.
full of fear.
Yeah, like, it's so weird seeing, like, so many people I know, um, they these individuals who I've met, they used to be really sweet kids, and obviously, like, because of what I've gone through, because of what happened to me, I know a lot of, like, scary fucking people, like, people who, like, have FBI files longer than mine, um, and the fact that I can say that is something. Um, like, you know, they were really sweet kids when we were growing up. They were, like,
Yeah,
really sweet kids,
yeah,
like, one person who I knew, I'm not gonna name names, I'm not gonna say what he did, but he's in and out of jail, he's currently a suspect in a murder case, and I still remember him when he was 14 years old running through my high school going, "I'm a weenie."
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
He
pressures we
wasn't
put
always
on
like that.
people. Yeah. And then though, I mean, they're so quick to then they pressure you till you break, and then they say that person has always been corrupt. And that's been the ongoing lie that we have to overcome. Shane, I'm noted. Let me just mention this. Shane, he's wonderful. I'm not going to be able to join this, but he's invited you to talk in an hour if you're available on his. He does a show. What does he say? I'm going to talk about AI reporters and fake humans. So if you want to do that, he's offering that for you. I have another talk with somebody scheduled. But holy
Absolutely.
cow, Oceana, you've given me a lot to think about. I keep talking when I talk with Will. You're gonna have to come and talk with me and Will Fullwood because we talk about white supremacy, and it's just like this mechanism of hate, that is just has been built on top of that's the structure of the United States, and it's been fused like cancer that's in our bones now, and we have to take it out like that hate
Chemo.
ideology, that toxic ideology. Yeah, and there is such a level of sexual perversion. I mean, you go back to the slave era, and all the plantation owners raped all the slaves, both the women and the men.
Mhm.
And it was just like, to what extent? I mean, that's the original sin, I guess, of the United States, and it just has branched out into all these other different forms of evil. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've done our hour. It went by fast. I have to go now and think. But if you've got other, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thanks for your
Yes.
courage. Thanks for being on here. Go ahead and tell people about
Um,
yourself again.
yeah, feel free to DM me, feel free to subscribe to me, and, if I'm gonna be on this thing in an hour, I need to go get a couple more bottles of, Kratom, and I actually need to eat my breakfast/lunch. So, I'll see you guys soon, okay?
Okay. Thanks everybody for joining. This was a really enlightening conversation, a lot to think about. So I appreciate everybody who was here. Go subscribe to Oceana. And yeah, the fight continues. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.